The world does not reward the naive, it bows to the ruthless. In our first video, we dissected the foundation of absolute control, laws 1 through 15 of Robert Greene's masterwork. We stripped away the blindfold. If you have not watched that previous encounter from law 1 to law 15, head to the channel to uncover how the prelude to this war was written. I am Midu Kayz. Today, we step deeper into the cold reality of human nature as we execute laws 16 through 30. The stakes are higher, the manipulation is deeper, the traps are far more deadly. Prepare your mind. The second phase begins now. Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Compulsive availability is the death of reputation. The more you are seen and heard from, the more common you appear. Look at the history of the ancient world. Siraj-ud-Dawla, the Nawab of Bengal, lost his kingdom because he was too accessible, cheapening his presence until his court grew familiar and contemptuous. In stark contrast, de Gaulle, the great French leader, deliberately vanished from public view during critical political shifts. By creating a sudden, calculated withdrawal, he became an enigma. Absence breeds speculation, and speculation breeds reverence. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this leverage clearly. A leader who is constantly in the streets loses the mystique of the throne. To become a legend, you must learn the tactical art of vanishing. Choose to be an exclusive force, not a constant commodity. Law 17. Keep others in tactical terror. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. Behavior that follows a repetitive pattern gives your enemies a map to your destruction. Consider the legendary chess champion Bobby Fischer. In his historic 1972 match against Boris Spassky, Fischer did not just play chess, he played human psychology. He arrived late, complained about the lights, changed his opening moves unexpectedly, and acted completely irrational. Spassky, a master of logic, wore himself out trying to analyze Fischer's chaos. He escalated into panic, fell apart, and surrendered the championship. Sun Tzu wrote that the supreme art of war is to let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night. When you are intentionally unpredictable, others wear themselves out trying to decode your mind, while you are already mastering the board. Law 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation is dangerous. The weak mind sees rejection and immediately retreats into a citadel. This is a fatal strategy. In the ancient wars of China, Qin Shi Huangdi, the first emperor, grew so paranoid of assassination that he hid away in a massive labyrinth of secret palaces. He cut off all communication and isolated himself completely. The result? He became a prisoner of his own walls. Because he was hidden, his advisors easily forged his signature, hid his death for months, and seized the entire empire from within. His fortress became his tomb. Truly powerful strategists do not hide. They reign from the center of the chaos. Your safety lies in circulation. Blend with the crowd, keep your allies in view, and keep your enemies even closer. Stay visible, stay dangerous. Law 19. Know who you are dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. The highest form of naivety is treating every man the same. In the 19th century, the arrogant financier Muhammad Shah of Khwarazm insulted a small trade caravan sent by Genghis Khan, even executing the Mongol ambassadors. Shah assumed Genghis was just another minor tribal leader. He was dead wrong. He had offended a monster of implacable revenge. Genghis Khan unleashed his entire army, wiped the Khwarezmian Empire off the map, and left the Shah to die in absolute ruin. Before you execute any strategic move, you must complete a rigorous anatomy of their psyche. Measure their pride. Understand their insecurities. Never assume an opponent is weak just because they are silent. If you miscalculate who you are dealing with, the recompense is total destruction. Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. The fool hurries to choose a side. The strategist stands alone in absolute sovereignty. Look at Queen Elizabeth I of England. Surrounded by powerful empires like France and Spain, and pressured by her own court to marry and form a hard alliance, she refused to commit. Instead, she masterfully courted both sides, dangling the promise of an alliance without ever delivering. For decades, both France and Spain treated England with extreme caution, competing for her favor while she maintained total independence. The moment you commit to a faction, you surrender your leverage. When you keep your dependency at absolute zero, you become the master of both sides. You do not belong to the game belongs to you. Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. No one likes to feel stupid. The highest form of strategic deception is making your opponent feel brilliant at your expense. Look at the legendary 19th century con artists of the American West. They would deliberately dress in shabby clothes, speak slowly, and act completely clueless when entering elite card games. The wealthy tycoons at the table assumed they were dealing with absolute fools, lowering their guard and playing recklessly. By the time they realized they were being outsmarted, their fortunes were completely wiped out. When you downplay your own intelligence, you disarm your rival's hidden anxiety. They grow confident, arrogant, and blind to the trap you are laying right beneath their feet. Seem a fool, but remain the master. Law 22. Use the surrender tactics. Transform weakness into power. When you are temporarily outmatched, fighting to the bitter end is not courage, it is absolute suicide. Consider the ancient island of Milos during the Peloponnesian War. Facing the overwhelming might of the Athenian fleet, the proud Melians refused to surrender. They chose to fight for honor. The result? Athens slaughtered their men, enslaved their women, and erased their civilization. In stark contrast, when the Roman Empire expanded, smart rulers surrendered early to buy time. They kept their infrastructure intact, studied Rome's weaknesses from within, and revolted when Rome grew unstable. Surrender is a tactical shield. It denies your enemy the satisfaction of a violent victory and hides your true intentions. You do not give up, you simply wait for the tides to turn. Law 23. Concentrate your forces. Intensity will always defeat scattered expansion. You burn more energy trying to conquer everything at once than by dominating a single critical target. Look at the brilliant military strategy of Napoleon Bonaparte. While his coalition enemies would split their massive armies across multiple fronts to cover more land, Napoleon did the exact opposite. He kept his forces tightly bound together in a single, devastating fist. He would identify the exact weakest point in the enemy's line and smash it with total focus. Sourcing your power from a single deep well will always yield more leverage than scratching the surface of 100 different fields. Find the core center of power and strike it with absolute concentration. Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. The world is a court, and those who do not understand its unwritten etiquette are instantly crushed by the machinery of power. In the lavish palace of Versailles, King Louis XIV was surrounded by aristocrats vying for attention. The ones who survived were not the loudest or the most aggressive. It was men like the courtier Charles Lebrun who mastered the art of subtle flattery. He never openly took credit for a brilliant idea. Instead, he presented it in a way that made the king believe he had thought of it himself. To rule the court, you must learn to yield gracefully to superiors, speak with elegant restraint, and exert your control through soft manipulation rather than raw force. Law 25. Recreate yourself. Do not accept the identity that society has blindly handed to you. If you let others define your boundaries, you become a puppet in their narrative. Take a lesson from Julius Caesar. He was not born an emperor, he engineered himself into one. He meticulously planned his public appearances, practiced his booming oratorical voice to command massive crowds, and staged theatrical military triumphs to build a larger-than-life legend. He took complete control of his image, forcing the Roman Republic to see him as a living god. You must become the author of your own persona. Alter your posture, change your cadence, and display your presence with calculated impact. Remake yourself into a force that commands instant reverence. Law 26. Keep your hands clean. You must maintain a spotless reputation for efficiency and grace. If mistakes are made, your fingers must never bear the stain of the crime. Look at Cleopatra, the brilliant queen of Egypt. When she needed to eliminate political rivals or execute dangerous plots that could trigger a revolt among her people, she never did it openly. She masterfully utilized scapegoats and proxy agents to do the heavy lifting. If a plan failed or went brutally wrong, she would publicly execute the agent who carried it out, framing herself as a just and innocent ruler. True power requires a lightning rod to catch the blame. Keep your actions hidden, let others carry out the dirty work, and always ensure you have a fallback to absorb the fallout while you remain untouchable. Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. Human beings have a desperate, burning desire to believe in something greater than themselves. If you offer them a cause, they will follow you blindly. In the 18th century, the charismatic mystic Count Alessandro di Cagliostro traveled across Europe, captivating the elites. He didn't offer logic or complex theories. He offered mystery, ritual, and a promise of eternal youth. He spoke in vague, grand terms, kept his true origins completely hidden, and let his followers project their own desires onto him. They formed a massive fanatical movement around his name, protecting him from his enemies. To build an absolute following, keep your words large and full of promise. Simplify the world into us versus them, and let your presence become an enigma. When the crowd stops thinking and starts believing, your power becomes absolute. Law 28. Enter action with boldness. If you are unsure of a course of action, do not attempt it. Your doubts and hesitations will infect your execution. Consider the audacity of Count Victor Lustig. In 1925, he didn't just run a small scam. He boldly posed as a high-ranking government official and literally sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal. Not once, but twice. He walked into meetings with absolute, unshakable confidence. The buyers were so overwhelmed by his sheer boldness that they never stopped to check his credentials. Timidity is dangerous in the arena of power. Any mistakes you make through audacity are easily corrected by being even more audacious. Crush your hesitation. Enter the room with absolute certainty. Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. The ending is everything. If you do not plan for the final strike, you will be overwhelmed by sudden twists of fortune and give away your victory. Look at the tragic brilliance of Otto von Bismarck. He single-handedly united Germany through calculated, localized wars. But he didn't fight for the sake of glory. He had a precise, multi-year blueprint. He knew exactly when to stop fighting, when to sign treaties, and how to stabilize Europe to protect his new empire. Because he planned all the way to the end, his achievements outlived him for decades. Most men act on raw emotion and short-term greed. By thinking 3 steps ahead, you guide the winds of fortune and ensure that your hard-earned success never turns into total ruin. Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. Your actions must seem natural and executed with ease. All the toil, sweat, and clever tricks behind your success must remain completely hidden. During the Italian Renaissance, the great masters of art and statecraft practiced a concept called sprezzatura, the art of effortless superiority. When Houdini performed his death-defying escapes, he never showed the audience how hard he was struggling under the water. He emerged smiling, breathing easily, as if it were a casual game. When you show the world how hard you work, You reveal your limitations and invite competition. But when you make your victories look easy, you create the illusion of a mastermind. Let them marvel at your power, but never let them see the machinery. We have just executed the second phase of absolute control, laws 27 through 30. You now possess the blueprint to step out of the shadows and command the board. But remember, knowledge without execution is a useless shield. You must take these rules and move with absolute precision in your daily life. Stay connected to this frequency, because the game never sleeps, and neither does the strategy. I am Midu Kayz. If you are ready to stop playing by rules designed to keep you compliant, hit that subscribe button right now. Do not miss our next deployment. I bleed power. Master the game or become a casualty of it.